My name's Elijah, I'm 24, and up until recently, I thought the worst kind of betrayal was romantic. You know, the classic stuff, heartbreak, lies, ghosting. I've been through a bit of that, sure, but nothing, and I mean nothing, ever hit me like realizing the people who raised me saw me as disposable. Background noise to someone else's celebration. A supporting character in my own family. I didn't see it coming all at once. It was like a slow burn, the kind you only recognize when the heat's already blistered your skin. And the worst part? I spent years convincing myself it was normal, that I was just overthinking, that maybe, if I just kept my head down and did the right thing, they'd eventually see me. But families like mine, they don't reward quiet effort. They reward spectacle. And my little sister, the golden child, was the queen of it. Her name's Ivy. She's 21, charismatic, brilliant, and unapologetically ambitious. The kind of person who walks into a room and everyone turns to look. And honestly, good for her. I've never been the jealous type. Growing up, I actually looked out for her a lot. Covered for her when she skipped curfew. Helped her fake a science fair project in middle school. Drove across town to pick her up from parties when she didn't want mom and dad to know where she was. I was the buffer, the fixer. If she made a mess, I was the guy with the mop. And I never complained. Not because I didn't notice, but because I thought that's what big brothers did. Our parents didn't make it easier. Mom, especially, had this habit of narrating Ivy's accomplishments like she was pitching a movie script to the universe. Did you hear Ivy got into the honors program? Ivy's professor said she's got real leadership potential. Ivy's graduation is going to be such a moment for us. Us, as in the family, as in everyone, except me, apparently. See, I didn't go the traditional route. College wasn't for me. I tried. 2 semesters of gen ed classes and group projects where no one pulled their weight. I dropped out and started working in IT support, then freelanced on the side. Fixed routers, cleaned up malware, built websites for local businesses. It wasn't glamorous, but over time, I carved something out for myself. I started my own tech consulting gig by 22. By 23, I was clearing decent numbers. Nothing wild, but enough to live comfortably, build savings, even help out with Ivy's tuition when she came up short one semester. Yeah, that happened. She called me crying 2 years ago because she was short on rent and her financial aid hadn't come through yet. Our parents didn't want to teach her bad habits by bailing her out, so I wired her $850 without hesitation. No lecture, no conditions. Just told her, don't worry. I've got you. She said she'd pay me back. Never did. Never even brought it up again. I let it go. That's just the kind of relationship we had. I give, she takes. And if you asked my parents about it, they'd say I was being too sensitive or keeping score. Funny how they only bring up fairness when it benefits someone else. Anyway, Ivy's graduation was coming up, college, this time, and the whole family was buzzing about it for weeks. Group chats, phone calls, coordinated outfits. There was even talk about hiring a photographer for the day. I didn't mind. I was proud of her. Genuinely. She'd worked hard, and graduation was a big deal. I figured we'd go as a family, maybe take some photos, grab dinner afterward, toast to her success, and go home. That was the plan. Or at least, that's what I thought, until things started to feel off. It started small. Little things. Mom would send photos of Ivy's graduation dress to the family group chat, which, by the way, had a new name, Ivy's Big Day. Ivy's Big Day. Not family graduation, or even just graduation plans. Nope, just her name in bold. I didn't say anything. I changed the group chat title back once, as a joke, Ivy and Company, and Mom changed it back immediately with a passive-aggressive, let's not make this about ego, Elijah. Cool, whatever. Then came the messages about dinner reservations. Mom mentioned she'd booked a private dining room at this upscale place downtown, a steakhouse I'd been to once during a company event. Expensive. Probably $200 a head minimum. I replied something casual like, nice, let me know what I should chip in. No response. Dad liked the message, but no one followed up. That was the first red flag. Then, the night before the graduation, I got a text from Ivy. Just her. She said, hey, just FYI, dinner's mostly for people who contributed to my journey. It's kind of like an intimate thing. No offense. It's not that you're not welcome, but Mom said it might be better if you meet us after or do something with me separately. Hope that's okay. I stared at the screen for a full minute. People who contributed to my journey. I wasn't even mad yet, just confused. I literally helped fund one of her semesters. I bought her textbooks. I fixed her laptop when it crashed 2 nights before a final. And now I was being gently nudged to sit this one out like some distant cousin who showed up uninvited. I didn't respond. I didn't trust myself to. I called my mom, calmly, just to clarify. Maybe Ivy misunderstood. Maybe this was just a miscommunication. But Mom answered with that overly sweet voice she used when she knew she was saying something cruel. Honey, it's not that we don't want you there. It's just, Ivy's worked so hard, and we want to make this a space where she's surrounded by people who've really poured into her. People who've been part of her growth. You understand, right? I asked, what do you mean? I've always supported her. And Mom laughed. Laughed. Elijah, you've always been present. But you've never really been part of her success. Not in the way others have. I mean, she's the one who did the work. I couldn't even argue. I just went quiet. I think that bothered her more than if I'd yelled. Because she kept talking, filling the silence with little excuses, saying maybe we could do something, brother, sister, why, another day. Maybe I could take Ivy out for coffee sometime next week. Just don't make a scene tomorrow, she said before hanging up. Let's not turn this into drama. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't family in their eyes, not really. I was furniture. Background. The guy who shows up, smiles in the photo, and quietly disappears. My presence wasn't a celebration. It was a courtesy. And now, apparently, even that was negotiable. But I still showed up. Graduation day came. I dressed up, took photos, clapped when Ivy's name was called. She beamed from the stage, and our parents cheered like they'd just won the lottery. No one introduced me to her friends. No one even really acknowledged me during the group photos. I offered to take a few, ended up being the one behind the camera more often than not. After the ceremony, Mom clapped her hands and said, "All right, dinner time," and everyone started heading toward the parking lot. I figured I'd follow along, maybe ride with Dad. But when I asked, he shook his head. "Oh, we've only got seats for close family," he said casually. "You can meet us there if you want. But, we're not sure they'll let you into the private room without being on the list. Maybe just text Ivy when you're outside." And then, he handed Ivy the car keys and walked off with Mom. Just like that. I stood there for a minute, watching their backs as they laughed about traffic and timing and wine pairings. My hands were shaking. Not from rage, not yet. Just the kind of tremble you get when your brain is trying to protect you from what your heart's already figured out. But I followed them anyway. And when I walked into that restaurant 20 minutes later, what I did next wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. There were no confrontations. No shouting. Just one quiet move. One small, silent decision. I walked up to the host stand. Gave my name. Smiled politely. And when the hostess confirmed the reservation, under my card, because of course they'd used it temporarily to hold the room weeks ago, I leaned in and said something simple. "Actually, I'd like to close that tab." She looked confused. "The reservation?" "Yes," I said. "Void it. Cancel the whole thing." And then I stepped outside, sat down on the bench across the street, and waited. It took about 30 minutes. And then, through the tinted glass, I saw it. The moment the waiter walked into the private room, leaned toward my parents, and said something that made my mother's smile freeze mid-sip. Dad blinked. Ivy's eyes darted toward the door. The room grew still. Confused. Tense. I watched them rise, speak hurriedly, wave someone over. Their faces dropped. And I just stood up, dusted off my coat, and turned around. No words. No message. Just one quiet exit. And that was only the beginning. If you asked me what I felt walking away from that restaurant, watching them scramble behind glass like fish in a tank, I couldn't tell you. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Not even regret. It was like I'd stepped outside my own body. Like I was watching someone else's family implode, and all I could think was, so this is what it takes for them to finally notice I exist. And yet, even as I turned the corner and left them in that overlit steakhouse with their spoiled evening and suddenly useless reservation, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Families like mine don't let quiet rebellion slide. They come for your silence with sharper weapons. And I was about to learn that the hard way. They didn't call that night. No missed calls. No, what happened? No, are you okay? They went radio silent. I half expected Ivy to text me something passive-aggressive or snarky, but instead, nothing. Like I'd never been part of the plan to begin with. I found out later that they ended up cramming into the open seating in the front of the restaurant, 4 adults and 3 of Ivy's college friends, all trying to share 2 small circular tables. No wine, no private menu, no speeches, just tension, awkward glances, and, according to Ivy's friend Maya, who messaged me privately the next day, the vibe was totally off, like someone died or something. She ended her message with, "Was that on purpose?" Whatever it was kind of epic. I didn't reply. I didn't want to drag her into this. But I appreciated the validation more than I should have. 3 days passed before the silence broke. Mom finally called, but not to apologize. I answered with a neutral hey, and her tone immediately told me this was not a peace offering. "Elijah, I need to understand something," she began, her voice tight. "Did you intentionally cancel the reservation we made for Ivy's dinner?" I didn't flinch. I didn't cancel anything. I closed the tab that was connected to my card. The rest was up to the restaurant. "That's the same thing," she snapped. "You knew what you were doing. You embarrassed us. You humiliated Ivy on her night. I wasn't even supposed to be there, remember?" I said quietly. "You told me I wasn't really part of her success." There was a pause. I could hear her breathing, short, clipped inhales like she was pacing or trying to calm herself down. "You took it out of context," she said finally. "You always twist things. That wasn't meant to be hurtful. But it was." "Look," she said, voice lowering into that condescending maternal tone that made my skin crawl. "I understand you feel excluded, but Ivy's at a turning point in her life. She needs to be surrounded by people who support her." "I've supported her more than anyone," I replied. "I've been cleaning up her messes for a decade. But the second she doesn't need something, I'm disposable." "Elijah, stop being dramatic." And that was it. That was the phrase that did it. Not the cold shoulder. Not the private dinner. Not even the way they'd looked right through me at the ceremony. It was that phrase, "stop being dramatic," that made something inside me snap. Because it wasn't just this moment. It was every moment that came before it. Every time I bit my tongue. Every time I let something go. Every time I told myself to be the bigger person, to not stir the pot, to wait my turn. I was done waiting. "I think we need some space," I said calmly. "Maybe a long one." "Elijah, don't be ridiculous. We're family." "Exactly," I said. "So maybe start acting like it." I hung up. She didn't call back. Weeks passed. Then months. Ivy went on to start her post-grad internship in Chicago. I knew because she posted about it constantly, LinkedIn, Instagram, even Facebook, which she barely used unless it was to brag. Every post had some variation of "I'm so grateful to my support system," or "I couldn't have done this without my incredible mentors and family." None of those photos included me. None of those thank yous had my name. And the worst part? I still rooted for her. I still liked her photos. Still sent her a congrats text when I saw she got promoted to full-time after only 4 months. No reply. I was blocked a week later. Apparently, Mom had spun the story into something else. I found out through my cousin Nadia, who ran into me at a wedding in November. She pulled me aside and whispered, "I heard you ruined Ivy's graduation because you were jealous." I blinked. "What?" "Yeah, your mom said you stormed out and sabotaged the dinner because you couldn't handle her success. Said you always resented Ivy for being the shining star." She looked uncomfortable. I didn't believe her, for what it's worth. But enough people apparently did. The extended family started pulling away. Invitations dried up. I stopped being tagged in holiday plans. My name was left off the Secret Santa list for Christmas that year. A family brunch was hosted 10 minutes from my apartment, and no one told me until 2 days later. When I asked my dad about it, he said, "We figured you wouldn't want to come after everything." After everything. As if I'd caused some irreversible rift. As if I hadn't spent 2 decades trying to hold things together. It all built up, slowly, like pressure under glass. I threw myself into work. Took on more contracts. Expanded my client base. Moved into a better apartment. I told myself I was better off. That I didn't need their approval. That I was building something real. But some nights, I'd look at the old family photos in my phone. Ivy's 16th birthday, Mom's garden party, that trip to the mountains where I was the only one who remembered to pack extra chargers, and I'd feel that hollow space widen in my chest. Then came the breaking point. It was a rainy Saturday in March. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. "Elijah." It was Ivy. Her voice was thinner than I remembered. Hesitant. Carefully measured. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Hey. I know it's been a while," she said, like we were distant classmates and not blood. But I wanted to ask for a favor. I froze. A favor? Okay, I said cautiously. What's going on? She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. So, my team is hosting this tech showcase next weekend, and I'm kind of leading one of the panels, and we need a backup presenter. Someone with experience in system architecture and endpoint security. My stomach dropped. You want me to do it? I said flatly. I thought of you because you're, like, the only person I know who does that kind of work, she said quickly. And it'd look really good, for both of us. You'd get exposure, and I'd look like I have strong industry connections. Win-win. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything. After being cut out, lied about, ghosted, erased. Now, suddenly, I was useful again. Does your team know I'm your brother? I asked. There was a pause. No, she admitted. I just told them I knew someone in the field. I figured we could keep it professional. You know, clean. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. You mean hidden. Elijah, don't make this into a thing. Oh, it's already a thing, I said, the edges of my voice sharp now. You spent a year pretending I didn't exist, and now you want to trot me out like a prop? That's not fair. No, what's not fair is being disinvited from my own sister's graduation dinner. What's not fair is being told I'm not part of your success, and then getting a call when you need someone to clean up again. She went quiet. I'm not your fixer anymore, Ivy, I said, and my voice cracked on her name. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the guy behind the curtain making you look good. If you need someone for your panel, hire a consultant. I can't afford one, she whispered. Then maybe you should have treated the free one with a little more respect. I hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, letting the silence spread like cold water through the room. For once, I wasn't sad. I wasn't confused. I wasn't waiting for them to come around. I was done. And that's when the idea started forming. Not revenge, not exactly. Something quieter. More surgical. They say rock bottom isn't a moment. It's a slow realization. A quiet, creeping weight that settles in your chest when you finally accept that the people you love won't be the ones to catch you. For me, it wasn't a single event. It was the accumulation of 100 small rejections. A birthday that passed without a call. A family group chat I was silently removed from. A cousin's wedding where my name wasn't on the guest list, even though I'd helped the groom design his company's entire website for free just the year before. It was a growing awareness that I wasn't just forgotten, I was erased. Rewritten out of the narrative. Sanitized from the story of their success like I was a typo someone was too embarrassed to admit they made. And still, I didn't break. Not in the dramatic, cinematic way. No whiskey bottle thrown against the wall. No shouting at the rain. No flurry of angry emails or late-night regret texts. I just went quiet. Inward. I started waking up later. Ignoring client messages. My apartment got messy, not dirty, but cluttered in a way that said I'd stopped caring. Half-filled water glasses everywhere. Shirts draped over chairs. Takeout containers that I kept meaning to throw away, but never did. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was numb. Like my life was running in the background while I sat still, watching it buffer. Work slowed down. Partly because I let it. Partly because I didn't have the energy to hustle like I used to. I'd built my consulting gig on reputation and reliability, and when that slipped, the projects dried up. Old clients stopped referring me. New ones didn't stick. 1 month, I dipped below rent. I had to break into my savings, the same account I'd proudly built over the last 2 years, just to keep my lights on. That hurt more than I expected. It wasn't about the money. It was about the feeling that I was unraveling. Slowly, silently, and alone. I think the worst day was when I got an email from my old high school. They were putting together an alumni spotlight for the newsletter and wanted to feature Ivy. The message was sent to our shared childhood inbox, one we both still used for random subscriptions. I wasn't even CC'd. Just a courtesy copy. The draft was already written. Ivy Matthews, class of 2020, an inspiring example of drive, resilience, and family values. There was even a quote from my mother at the bottom. We always knew Ivy was destined for greatness. We're so proud to have been part of her journey. I stared at it for 10 minutes, then quietly deleted it. No reply. No edits. Just gone. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment with a lukewarm cup of instant ramen, the lights off, my laptop flickering beside me. And I asked myself, not dramatically, not even consciously, what if this is just it? What if this is all I ever am to them? And for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to prove them wrong. I didn't feel anything, just that same numbness. But here's the thing about rock bottom. It's quiet. So quiet, you start to hear things again. Your own voice, your own thoughts, your own wants, not the ones you were raised with, not the ones expected of you, but the small, stubborn voice that says, this isn't where your story ends. It started small. I cleaned my kitchen, not because anyone was coming over, but because I was tired of tripping over cardboard boxes and plastic forks. Then I opened my calendar, sorted through missed deadlines, replied to a few emails, nothing fancy, just, hey, sorry for the delay. Ready to jump back in if you still need help. A surprising number of people wrote back. Apparently, I wasn't the only one struggling through the post-pandemic haze. Apparently, people remembered me, even if my family didn't. Then came the freelance request that changed everything. It was from a mid-sized logistics company I'd done a minor job for over a year ago, just a site optimization and some back-end security upgrades. Nothing major. But they were scaling fast and needed someone to oversee a full systems overhaul. Internal tool migration, cloud infrastructure, endpoint protection, 6-month contract, renewable, with a generous retainer. I almost said no. Part of me still felt like I didn't deserve to say yes. Like I wasn't capable of building something bigger. But I read the email again, then a third time, and I said yes. It was hard at first, getting back into the groove, relearning how to focus, how to show up. I built a schedule, started using a productivity app, bought a standing desk on credit, a small act of faith in myself. I shaved, got a haircut, signed up for a gym membership. I didn't go, not at first, but I liked seeing the key tag on my desk. It felt like potential. The work started to pour in. One successful contract led to another. I found a niche in mid-level security audits and system restructuring. Not glamorous, not flashy, but necessary. Lucrative. I raised my rates, built a portfolio, bought a new domain and quietly rebranded under my own name, Elijah Matthews Consulting. I didn't post it anywhere, didn't tag family, didn't try to prove anything. I was done performing. What surprised me most was how many people came out of the woodwork. Old classmates, former colleagues, even a few of Ivy's friends who remembered me from back in the day. One of them, Maya, the same one who'd messaged me after the graduation dinner, reached out again, this time with a proposition. She was launching a startup, a networking platform for freelance professionals. She needed a back-end lead, equity-based at first, then a full-time salary after seed funding. I met her for coffee, and something clicked. She was sharp, grounded, and had that rare mix of vision and humility. We talked for 3 hours, not just about work, but about family, estrangement, identity. I told her pieces of the story, not all of it, just enough. She listened. No judgment, no pity, just understanding. I joined the project 2 weeks later. The pace was intense. Late nights, early mornings, weekends spent knee-deep in code. But I loved it. For the first time in a long time, I felt useful, seen. Not as Ivy's brother, not as the quiet one or the forgotten son, just as Elijah, a guy with skills, with drive, with ideas people respected. We hit our funding goal in 4 months. 2 VCs, 1 angel investor, $500,000 in the first round, salaries activated, stock options unlocked. I didn't tell anyone, not yet. I wanted to build this in peace. I moved into a better apartment, downtown, high ceiling, exposed brick, real sunlight. I got a proper espresso machine, started cooking again, bought a new suit for the first time in years. Not for anyone else. For me. It felt like coming back to life. And then, right when things were finally steady, when I'd stopped checking my phone for texts that never came, when I could look at Ivy's LinkedIn without flinching, something happened. I got a call. Unknown number. Again. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Third time, I picked up. Elijah? It's Dad. His voice was lower than I remembered. Weaker. It had a kind of hesitant rasp, like he'd been rehearsing the call and still didn't know what to say. Hey, I said cautiously. I know it's been a long time, and I won't pretend I deserve this call, but I need to talk to you. My throat tightened. What's going on? It's about the house, he said. About Ivy. About everything. He sounded tired, scared, cornered, and I felt something shift in me. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one on the back foot. I wasn't the one needing anything. I was being asked, and I wasn't sure whether to lean in or hang up. But I knew one thing for certain. The tides were turning. I didn't respond right away. About Ivy, Dad repeated, as if that would unlock something in me. It didn't. All it unlocked was a memory. Me sitting in the back seat of his truck at 15, headphones in, while he and Mom gushed about Ivy's piano recital. She'd played one piece. One, and missed 3 notes. But you'd think she'd cured cancer by the way they praised her. She's so poised, Mom had said. She's just got that spark, Dad added. No one noticed I'd won first place at a regional math competition that morning. Not even a good job, Elijah. I swallowed the memory and focused on his voice. What about Ivy? I asked flatly. Dad hesitated. I could picture him, pacing, running a hand through his thinning hair, choosing his words like stepping over landmines. She's in trouble. Financial trouble. And there's more. She's kind of, well, burned some bridges. I didn't say anything. She reached out to me a few days ago, he continued. Said her startup ran out of funding. The showcase you didn't help with? Apparently, the panel flopped without a second expert. That hurt her credibility. And she left her internship to chase the startup full-time. No backup plan. She's defaulted on her lease. She asked to move back in. Still, I said nothing. Not because I was being cold, but because I knew what was coming next. I told her she could. Of course. But I don't know how we're going to manage. Your mother is struggling too. There it was. The pivot. The slow shuffle toward what he really wanted. I wouldn't be calling you if we weren't out of options. I leaned against the kitchen counter and stared at the skyline through my window. This high-rise view I paid for with my own sweat and patience. You want money, I said finally. No. I mean, yes, we need help, but not like a handout. Just a temporary. Why not ask the rest of the support system? I cut in. You know, the people who were really part of her journey. Silence. I let it hang. I don't mean to rehash old wounds, Dad said after a pause. But at the end of the day, we're still family. Funny how they always remember that word when they need something. Let me think about it, I said. And then I hung up. But I didn't think about helping. I thought about something else. I thought about Maya. I thought about the newsletter that had deleted me. I thought about the photo from Ivy's graduation, the one where I was cropped out so cleanly you wouldn't even know I'd been standing there, just outside the frame, holding someone's purse. And I remembered what Maya had said over coffee one night. You're the kind of guy people overlook until they can't afford to anymore. I made a call. Maya picked up on the second ring. Hey, I was just about to text. Hold off on that deployment, I said. I have a better idea. She was quiet for a beat. Then, talk to me. See, Maya wasn't just a startup founder. Her real gift was pattern recognition. She could read people the way I read back-end code. And she'd been watching me rebuild, not just the business, but my spine. When I told her everything, for the first time in full, she didn't say, I'm sorry. She said, let's weaponize it. The plan started small, not even revenge, really. Just a way to shift the power back into my hands. We had been prepping for a beta launch of our freelance platform, but I proposed something slightly different, a spotlight campaign. One that featured freelancers with underrepresented stories. Maya loved it. She was already planning media outreach, and my story, the black sheep who bootstrapped a business while being ignored by his own family, was gold. I'll write it, I told her. But I don't want it to sound bitter. Just honest. She smiled. Leave that to me. You tell your story. I'll make sure the right people see it. We worked on it in secret. A sleek website section with curated profiles. High-quality portraits. Linked social proof. The campaign went live on a Tuesday morning. I didn't even promote it myself. Maya tagged me once. That was enough. The post went viral. Turns out, people relate to the invisible sibling, the overlooked striver, the quiet one who finally gets loud. Within days, the article was shared across dozens of LinkedIn circles, reposted by tech bloggers, even featured in a 10 Founders to Watch roundup on a popular entrepreneurship newsletter. I got speaking invites, panel requests, DM after DM. And then, one afternoon, I got a message request from a familiar name. Brendan Rivers, senior editor, Tech Pulse magazine. He wanted to feature my story. A full-length interview. Normally, Maya would have handled that. But this time, I asked her to let me write it myself. The title was simple, Out of Frame. And I didn't hold back. I talked about growing up in a family where silence was mistaken for apathy, where support was conditional, where love was performance-based. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. I let the facts speak for themselves. How I helped fund a sibling's education, only to be told I wasn't part of her success. How I started a business from my bedroom after being cut out of family holidays. How sometimes the people who expect your loyalty are the ones least deserving of it. The piece exploded. Comments flooded in. Thousands. Strangers sharing their own stories. Therapists citing it in threads about familial neglect. Coaches reaching out for podcast guest spots. And somewhere in the middle of it all, my mother called. I let it ring. Then again. Then Ivy called. I stared at her name on the screen, Ivy Matthews, and felt nothing. She texted, "Can we talk? Please." I replied, "Sure." But not on the phone. I told her to meet me at a coffee shop near my apartment. Neutral ground. Public enough to keep things civil. When she walked in, I almost didn't recognize her. The confident posture was gone. Shoulders curled in. No makeup. Eyes tired. She sat down slowly, like she expected the chair to vanish beneath her. "Hey," she said, voice soft. "Hi." We sat in silence for a minute. Then she blurted, "You really wrote all that about me? I didn't mention you." "You didn't have to," she said. "Everyone knows. Our entire extended family's blowing up the group chat." Aunt Linda left. Said she's sick of fake narratives. "Maybe she is," I said. Ivy rubbed her temples. "You made me look like a villain." "I didn't make you look like anything," I replied. I told my story. "If you don't like how you come off in it, maybe ask yourself why." She flinched. "Is this revenge?" she whispered. "No," I said honestly. "This is clarity." She looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw the version of her that wasn't curated. Not the golden child. Not the star. Just a girl who realized the spotlight doesn't guarantee warmth. "I messed up," she said finally. "I used you. I let Mom and Dad turn me into something I wasn't. I wanted to believe I earned it all by myself, but the truth is, I needed you. And I still do." I didn't respond. Not yet. Because the truth was, I wasn't sure what I wanted from her anymore. Forgiveness? Recognition? An apology with weight? Or maybe I didn't need anything. Maybe I just wanted her to see what it felt like to be on the outside looking in. But the setup wasn't over. Because the real moment wasn't Ivy's breakdown. It was what came after. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. I talked to Dad. About the house. About the trust fund. My eyes narrowed. "What trust fund?" She blinked. "You don't know?" And right then, I knew. There was more. Much more. Something big. Something they'd never planned to tell me. I leaned forward, slow and steady. "Start from the beginning," I said. And she did. And as she talked, piece by piece, my childhood rewrote itself in front of me. All the dinners I wasn't invited to. All the family decisions I was left out of. The way my name was always just slightly smaller. The way the key to the kingdom had always been dangling just out of reach, and no one ever told me it was mine too. By the time she finished, I was silent. I walked home from that coffee shop in a daze, the folder still clutched in my hands. Ivy's words echoed in my head like distant thunder. A trust fund. One I was never told about. One that should have belonged to both of us, but apparently didn't. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The fund had been set up by my grandfather. He passed when I was 12. I remember the funeral, mostly the itchy suit and how everyone made sure Ivy had tissues and warm soup while I sat alone near the back pew. Grandpa was old school, stern but fair. A Korean War vet who built a small empire of rental properties and believed in hard work. According to Ivy, he'd split the fund evenly between us, a clause in his will. It was meant for education or business investment. Each of us was supposed to have access after turning 21. But only one of us ever got the money. I never saw a dime. Ivy said she didn't know, not at first. She just assumed the money came from our parents. She used part of it to cover school expenses and the rest to launch her startup, the same one that flopped and left her broke. She only found out the source recently when she asked Dad for more, and he got cagey. That's when she checked some old paperwork in the attic and saw both our names on the original documents. She confronted him. He panicked, confessed, said it didn't make sense to split it when I wasn't pursuing academics, and she had a real future. They'd drained my half of the trust, without telling me, without my consent, and apparently, with the help of a family attorney who'd been more than willing to bend ethics in exchange for family loyalty. I should have exploded. I didn't. I felt cold, focused, like a wire inside me had been stretched for years and had finally snapped into a straight, perfect line. I thanked Ivy. Told her I appreciated her honesty. She asked if I hated her. I said no. She left crying. And then I got to work. Step 1 was confirming everything. I called a contact, Samir, a forensic accountant I'd worked with on a corporate breach last year. Brilliant guy. Suspicious by nature. Perfect for this. I told him I needed quiet help tracing an old trust. I gave him Ivy's folder, a few names, some dates. He got back to me in 2 days. The trust had been real. It was called the Matthews Legacy Fund, established 1999, originally split 50-50 between beneficiaries Elijah and Ivy Matthews, to be released upon each reaching the age of 21. Simple, legally airtight. Until 2020. That's when a transfer was made from my share into a consolidated account under Ivy's name. Authorized not by me, but by our father, using a power of attorney document I had never seen or signed. Forgery. Blatant. Sloppy. Step 2. Legal prep. I called Maya, told her everything. She put me in touch with her firm's favorite shark, Vanessa Cho. 35, terrifyingly smart, and a litigator with zero patience for liars. I didn't need to embellish. I showed her the documents, the forged signature, the transfer trail. She nodded once and said, "This'll be fun." We didn't go public. Not yet. I wanted everything airtight. No loose ends. Vanessa filed the suit in April. Elijah Matthews versus Richard and Sandra Matthews. A civil action for breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, and misappropriation of trust assets. Ivy was not named in the lawsuit. I made that clear. She'd been a pawn, not the player. The real betrayal came from the people who had always claimed to protect me. The ones who thought I'd never be smart enough to notice what they'd taken. Step 3. Media pressure. While the legal wheels turned, I worked behind the scenes. Maya helped me get a second piece published. This time in TechForge, a more polished version of my journey, but with an added twist. I talked about the importance of financial autonomy, how too many young entrepreneurs are sabotaged not by failure, but by family. I didn't mention names. I didn't need to. People connected the dots. Then I got a call from Forbes Next Gen. They wanted to feature me in their Founders Under 30 profile, and they wanted to film it at a location meaningful to me. So I picked one. The same steakhouse where my family once left me outside while they celebrated without me. The camera crew set up in the private dining room. I sat down in the same chair my mother once reserved for real supporters. I smiled into the camera and said, "Funny thing about being underestimated. It teaches you how to build quietly and strike loudly." Word of the lawsuit got out 3 weeks later. A local business blog ran the story. Rising tech consultant sues parents for fraudulent misuse of trust fund. Within days, it hit Reddit, then Twitter, then LinkedIn. The comments were brutal. Some people didn't believe it. Others did, with receipts, screenshots, yearbook photos, alumni group threads, the quiet brother who was never mentioned, the graduation dinner that had weird vibes. A former neighbor even chimed in. I remember when Elijah used to mow the lawn for free while Ivy was out with friends. Parents treated him like hired help. The court of public opinion turned fast. And then came the real blow. The lawyer my parents had used to help with the forged paperwork, he flipped. Full cooperation. In exchange for immunity, he gave Vanessa everything. Emails, drafts, signed statements. Even a recorded phone call where my mother said, "He's not going to notice. He doesn't even read legal stuff. He fixes computers." That line made it into our court brief. I printed it out and framed it. The trial didn't even happen. They settled in mediation. I got everything. The original trust amount plus penalties, plus legal fees, plus damages for emotional distress. High 6 figures. Enough to change a life. Enough to fund Maya's startup through Series A. Enough to finally breathe without weight on my chest. And then, with Vanessa's help, I made one final move. I bought the house. Not directly. That would have been obvious. Instead, I purchased the property through a holding company I created, a shell LLC called EM Futures. Short for Elijah Matthews, obviously, but they wouldn't know that. Ivy had told me they were planning to sell. Said the mortgage was underwater, and with the lawsuit looming, they needed to downsize fast. They listed the home quietly. Off-market. Cash buyers preferred. EM Futures submitted a clean offer 48 hours later. They accepted. The day the sale closed, I went to the house. Empty now. Quiet. Echoes in the hallway. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the fridge where my childhood drawings used to hang. I remembered how Ivy's were always centered, perfectly framed with magnets. Mine were crooked, half-torn, eventually replaced. I walked upstairs, opened the attic, and found the box. It was still there, the same one Ivy had mentioned. The original trust papers, old family photos, even a birthday card from Grandpa with my name on it. To Elijah, for whatever you build next. I sat there for a long time, just holding that card. Then I walked downstairs, locked the front door, and left. But not before placing one envelope on the mantel. Inside was a copy of the deed, and a note. You once told me I wasn't part of her success. Turns out, I didn't need to be. I built my own. It's been a year now. The story still circulates. Occasionally, someone reposts it on Twitter or tags me in a comment. I don't respond. I don't need to. I live in a quiet apartment across the river, sun-drenched and peaceful. The espresso machine hums each morning. Maya and I are still building. The company's now valued at $4.8 million after our latest round. We hired 10 full-time staff. I finally started using that gym membership. Ivy and I talk sometimes. Not often, but with honesty now. She's rebuilding too. She apologized again last Christmas, in a card this time. No drama. Just 4 words. I should have seen you. I kept that one. As for my parents, I haven't spoken to them since the settlement. I don't need to. They know. They saw the headlines, the articles, the interviews. They saw the final photo in Forbes Next Gen. Me, sitting in that steakhouse, smiling. And the caption below. He wasn't invited to the table, so he bought the building.